Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. In this topic we'll be discussing about al-Hijrah. And this discussion is not to mention the rulings regarding Hijrah, it's just some advice for people that are interested in the subject and are unsure where to start. Now, first and foremost, I want to mention that this is not by any means a fatwa or a ruling. It's not something that's telling people to go and make Hijrah. The evidences and all those things regarding the matter, I would advise every single person to research it and study this topic in detail and understand whether Hijrah is for them or a necessity or not. Again, every individual needs to look at their personal circumstances and look at their family situation, look at their financial situation as well if it's possible. But I will give some advice for those people that are considering this subject, inshallah ta'ala. Now, obviously the issue of al-Hijrah is very important in terms of our religious perspective. It's something that the Prophet ﷺ and the Quran, the Sunnah have mentioned, and it's not something that we should somebody wants to make al-Hijrah and how they plan to do al-Hijrah, what are the steps that are necessary to make in this journey. Now, first and foremost, one of the biggest aspects is putting your tawakkul upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace anything that you give up for His sake, whether it be money, whether it be relationships, whether it be things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will replace those things. He will replace you with something better. So as a person who's making this journey, the first step for al-Hijrah is to put tawakkul upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Know that whatever you're doing for the sake of Allah, it's not going to waste. It's always going to be in your favor, whether it be in this life or the next. Allah will give it back to you, inshallah, on the Day of Judgment with heavy reward. The second advice that I would give somebody who wants to make al-Hijrah is to know what you are doing. Like in this subject, a person should really know what is the purpose of their journey to a land of the Muslims. So example, if they live among the non-Muslims, or they live in a country where it's difficult to practice their religion, or they're finding it that they have to do it because of the fact that there's obligations now that are being affected. In this case, the person needs to do a big ground research of where they're going. This step, like for example, do they need an education? Do they need some amount of money? Do they need some sort of situation where they need to communicate with people? This is very important. And also understanding the worldly perspective, understanding the idea of how visas and those regulations work, especially in the time of coronavirus. Is it possible to you to travel in a place where vaccines may be a requirement and stuff like this? Again, if you're reluctant to take the vaccine, you're not a person who wants to take it, then you have to look at which countries you can navigate to at this current time and moment. So it's very important to research a lot about what you're doing. It's not just to put tawakkul blindly and just go, rather make a plan. So a person needs to make a very important plan on this journey. I would advise a lot of people that you must be planning. As a Muslim that lives in this time or this era of where things are difficult to do and it's hard to make those steps of doing things on a daily basis, we have to be 5 steps ahead or 3 steps ahead or have a backup plan. It's not sufficient for somebody to, in this time, to not have a plan. So make a plan. For example, if you know that, for example, certain countries are looking at certain fields of education for certain backgrounds, then that's something you should look at and flood that gate, as they say. Go down that route if you know that's an opportunity. If it's a business opportunity, money opportunity, look for the options. Don't settle for, it's difficult, it's hard, I can't. No, make a plan, speak to people, make contacts. Sometimes you come to some of these lands and you find, in the land of the Muslims, alhamdulillah, you find that in these lands there are people that have made it, they've established themselves. How? Because they make contacts, they've done things, they worked hard. Every single person that strives in the sake of Allah for his sake, he wants to do something for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for his sake of his religion or his or her religion. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have you taken care of. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will support you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will aid you. And this is where effort and reliance comes together. If you put the effort with the tawakkul upon Allah, Allah will open the door for you. So don't make this journey without a plan. Make a plan. And as a Muslim, be prepared that in the next 4 or 5 years, things may not go as per plan. So have that backup. An example is you may move to a country. Know that you need to have a backup plan. If if I lose my job, for example, or my business fails, or the rules change in the country for some reason. Coronavirus was a big example of this. Yeah, coronavirus affected a lot of people in terms of the virus outbreak by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, had an effect on the world by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it caused people to need certain things to be in certain countries. This here is an example of preparing for that situation. Yeah, what was your backup plan if something like that happened? A lot of people probably didn't have a plan. They didn't know what to do. So what would they do? And this is a thing you need to think about. Very importantly, if you make al-hijrah to the land of the Muslims. And know that the third advice I want to inshallah mention is that know that there's no perfection in any place on this earth. Know that you're living in the dunya, and truly this dunya will not have a place of comfort. And it's not your design to be a place of comfort, right? The minimum that we should expect is that we should be able to practice our religion with comfort, inshallah ta'ala, that's for sure, and make that easy upon ourselves and strive on that journey, because there's great reward involved. But what you should really understand is that this dunya is not designed as a perfect place to live. So there will be challenges on that journey. So know that if you go to one country, there may be certain difficulties. The weather might be hard to live in. The people might not be as friendly as from where you're coming from, right? The culture may be different. Everything could be different to what you expect, but doesn't mean that puts you off this whole great reward. So again, the intention is very important. If a person makes hijrah for the purpose of the worldly reasons, then of course they're going to find every reason to not like a place, because where you're coming from is most likely going to be less developed or less educated or whatever you're looking for, right? Unfortunately, that's the reality of the situation. You may come to a country where it may not be better than where you're coming from, right? Or could be better, it depends. But make your niyyah purely for the sake of Allah, and know that if you're coming to a place for the sake of Allah, don't expect perfection there. Then the people might not be like as religious as where they were in the land of the non-Muslims. So it shouldn't put you off. But if you're doing it for the right reasons, and you have all the reasons to do it, and you've planned it out, and be patient and put your trust upon Allah. And this is very, very crucial, because a lot of the times people find that this journey that they're looking at making hijrah, they find it like, oh, they're looking out for like flaws in everything that they're seeing. Unfortunately, there's no perfect place to live. There's no perfect environment. You're gonna find some places that are close to it, but at the end of the day, you have to be patient and know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will help you if you are remembering this. The third thing is, if you have a family, make sure, the fourth thing, if you have a family, make sure that you've planned it out with them. It shouldn't be something that like I would say, if you have a family, you should do a test run. Go yourself, have a look at the place, understand the environment that you're going to. Know that, if there's certain things that your family want to do, and there's certain things your family like to do, or certain things that maybe that might not be available. So you might have to come back and relay that back to your family. It's very important that having open communication with the people you're going with. And if they go to a land where it's difficult to live, go to a land where it's like harder for them to make friends, and the language is different, it's something that you need to prepare them for. It doesn't mean you stop the idea, especially if they're in agreement with the idea. It makes it easier if the family is happy with it as well, because that means that everyone's on board. But I'm saying it's very important, paramount importance, that you test the waters and see what's going on out there. Don't just be like, hijrah is the utopia and we're going to make land on Muslim, then end up falling back in the same situation, but in a worse situation, coming back without a plan. So it's very important, essential, that the person who's making this journey, and as I said, so important, the person who's making this journey needs to understand that there's a lot of steps involved. It's not a straightforward thing, especially the fact that with the reward of al-hijrah, and knowing that al-hijrah is an expiation for your past sins, and this is one of the noble benefits of making al-hijrah to the land of the Muslims. If you're able to completely make al-hijrah, Allah will forgive all your past sins, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, if this is completed. Know that this is going to be tested. You're going to be tested through your faith. Allah's going to want to see, are you real? Are you really able? Are you really determined? And I would like to say lastly, as a closing thing, if you're doing like one of the sheikhs that I sat with once, and I asked for advice for a matter, and they said to me that, are you doing the thing which is halal and permissible in the religion? Is it something that's recommended or encouraged or something you should do? I said, yes, Sheikh. He said, then continue and pursue and persist, for verily Allah will not let you down. This is in Allah's plan. that this thing that you're looking for, seeking for, is a trial at the moment. It may not be opening up for you, or may be difficult for you, but persist in it. And this is the same advice you give to people who are trying to make al-hijrah. If you know you're doing the right thing, and you know that it's very important that you've planned it out in a way where your family is aware of it, and looking at all the obligations around you that are around you in the non-Muslim country that you're in, and you look at those things that you may be having to leave, like for example rights of parents and things like this, and it's very important to consult people in knowledge on this issue before you make that big step of jumping across to another country of the land of the Muslims. Again, as I said, you have to make sure you consult the people of knowledge, seek their counsel, seek their advice, the people that are trusted and well known, who would give you sound advice based on the Quran and Sunnah, and speak to them and understand. But if it's something that they've recommended you to after your consultation, and people are going to say you're a weak person, you're leaving those lands, you're giving up, basically you're the defeatist, please honestly turn off the sound and ignore that. Because as I said from before, the Shaykh whom I spoke to once about a matter, and he said to me, continue if it's halal, don't give up, persist in it, because you're doing the right thing, and know that Allah will make an opening. So this is the thing I would advise to anybody who gets this type of putting off mentality, brother or sister, why are you leaving? Why are you such a weak person? Why can't you say, ya akhi, ya ukhti, understand that if you're protecting your religion, what's more noble and better than this? If you're protecting your iman, you're protecting your children, you're protecting your family from fitna and fasad of those lands where it's harder to practice a religion, surely you should save your deen. That comes first. As we know, as in the al-maqasid al-sharia is mentioned that hifadatu an dinihi, and is mentioned as the principle that a person should protect, or the sharia is the goal of the Islamic law, or the first thing it will look at is protecting one's religion, and hifadatu an dinihi, protecting the religion. So why would we not go down that route of making al-hijrah if we know it's going to protect our religion first and foremost, which is the most important thing. As one of the scholars mentioned, min ajli anta khuliqt, for the reason that you were created. Allah created you for the purpose of ibadah of Allah, His religious reasons, not for this dunya to live here and make money. So remember this. If you're doing it for the right reasons, and you have the reasons, you've clarified everything, you've taken care of your obligations and your rights to others that may need you, in this case, persist inshallah ta'ala. But as I said, I don't want this to come across as encouraging people to break ties and all these things. La. Please make sure, please, I stress this very, very much important, consult the people in knowledge in every step you take. I really, 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 really stress this out, that anybody that makes a plan or a journey that they're going upon, please be connected with ulama, scholars. Don't make plans without being connected to the ulama. This is very important. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this a very beneficial reminder for those people that are thinking about al-hijrah and wanting some advice. We ask Allah to make it sincerely for His sake, and we ask Allah to benefit those that are listening. Barakallahu feek wa sallallahu wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wallahu a'lam.